Hi, Dr. RTK. My name is Cynthia. I am in your 7 p.m. section, and this is my video. So, my educational philosophy for student affairs is influenced by my community cultural wealth, multiple identities, preferred leadership theories, and leadership experiences. Therefore, I believe that all students should have access to a fair, respectful, and supportive environment to learn, grow, and support their peers. I want students to feel validated, heard, and recognized as individuals, which may involve checking my biases, privilege, and preconceived notions to ensure I'm not inflicting harm or prejudices onto any students. I will recognize that every student brings with them experiences and strengths different from each other that can be fostered in and out of the classroom. As a first-generation Chicana, reading Yoso and learning about the community cultural wealth model felt very validating. Specifically, I think linguistic capital, or the intellectual and social skills attained through communication experiences and more than one language or style, was most influential for me. So for many years in my early education, I was an ELD student or an English language learner because Spanish is my first language. And knowing Spanish meant I could communicate with my grandparents. It made learning other languages easier. Being bilingual also meant I could help my community by translating documents, helping facilitate phone calls, etc. And so learning about linguistic capital was really emotional for me because for so many years I wasn't allowed to speak in class, let alone think of it as a strength. In a later chapter in Yosa's book, a teacher that was interviewed brought up how ironic it was that students are discouraged from speaking their native language, yet make it a requirement to learn a foreign language in order to graduate high school. I resonated with this so much. That's why in my philosophy of educational leadership, I want students to feel validated, heard, and recognized as they are, and not feel like they need any fixing by recognizing how much added value they are to the class. The other type of cultural capital that has also been very influential is social capital, or the networks of people and community resources. In every step of the way in my educational trajectory, there have been several people that pushed me to keep going and helped me by providing resources, mentoring, and guidance. Professors that wrote letters of recommendation, student affairs professionals who came from similar low-income backgrounds shared with me their educational journey and what compelled them to join this field. This type of representation is what motivated me to get into the student affairs field and be that person for someone else. I know students face different kinds of obstacles and barriers to getting a quality education, and my hope is by being my authentic and true self and sharing my experiences of the difficulties I encountered, that they would feel understood and can use my guidance and support as their own social capital. I want students to know that I will be that person in their corner advocating for them. And I want to do that by practicing and exemplifying the leadership theories that I most identify with, which are a mix between authentic and servant leadership. So I resonate with authentic leadership because it describes a leadership that is transparent, morally grounded, and responsive to people's needs and values. And it involves being sensitive to the plight of others, opening oneself to others, and being willing to help them. I also appreciate that it can develop over time and is triggered by major life moments. So I think for me, those major life moments that shifted my thinking were traumatic moments in my childhood that made me very aware of how my world was different than others. Growing up, I found being my true authentic self always made me friends very easily because I was kind, I was trusting, and above all, always tried to do the right thing. And I think people appreciated that. Funnily enough, in the Strengths Quest description for my top strength, which is includer, it mentions you regularly go out of your way to welcome individuals whom others ignore. Perhaps you have a gift for befriending all sorts of people. I think that is correct. So in summary, this perspective emphasizes a leader's life experiences and the meaning he or she attaches to those experiences as being critical to the development of the authentic leader, and I think for me that remains true. So while these are all great things to note about authentic leadership, I think it's also important to note that it's been critiqued for how, in that how authenticity relates to leadership is unknown. So that's important to note. The other, servant leadership, emphasizes that leaders be attentive to the concerns of their followers, empathize with them, and nurture them. Servant leaders put followers first, empower them, and help them develop their full personal capacities. So I feel I exemplify this in my past and present leadership experiences. So even more validating, my second Strengths Quest strength developer has a line in the description that says, driven by your talents, you usually put aside what you do and even inconvenience yourself to serve others. I think that's very true. So in my current role, I supervise undergraduate peer health educators, and at work, we've been experiencing a lot of upheaval. So our boss just quit due to issues with management, and my team has been feeling very stressed and unsteady, and I've personally taken time both in and out of work to check in on them. I've stressed that I'm willing to stick up for them if they ever feel like too many responsibilities are being put on them, or if they ever feel like the changes are too much. And it's because of what they're feeling, or it's because of, what they're feeling is are things that I feel too. And so I'm someone who's very empathetic. I like to communicate by listening first. I care about the personal well-being of my quote unquote followers, which are all characteristics of being a servant leader. So while again, all of this sounds great, I think it's also fair to think, it's a theory that's too good to be true. In a perfect world, we could serve everyone's needs, but as one critique states, because the name appears contradictory, servant, being a leader by kind of being a servant to followers, um, it's perceived as fanciful or whimsical. So, even if scholars might not believe in the credibility of the theory or the way it sounds, I think it's effective, at least in my day-to-day experiences. So that's my educational philosophy overview video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen.